We've also, of course, had this fire in South Australia on Kangaroo Island. Will tear through that island. It was quick, it was ferocious, and it was devastating. Joining me now on the line is Sam Mitchell, owner of Kangaroo Island Wildlife Park. Sam, thanks very much for your time. Some pretty awful news. At least half of the island's koalas have died, many more injured. What can you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's been pretty horrific over here, as everyone sure can understand. And that's just an estimation. Kangaroo Island was well known for our koala population of what's considered to be one of Australia's only disease-free populations of koalas, anywhere from 50 to 60,000, and you know, well over half of their prime habitat has been wiped out. Not just those guys, kangaroos, wallabies, possums, echidnas, the southern brown bandicoot, Kangaroo Island dunnart. You know, everything's suffering. We're starting to see a lot of burn victims roll onto our doors as we speak.
It's been awful seeing these pictures, not only this bushfire season, but previous ones of course, burnt koalas. We know that, of course, they're slow-moving creatures, so they can't get away. You mentioned the insurance population. They don't have this chlamydia virus, so this was considered, if that couldn't be cured in some way or sorted out on the mainland, this was the population that could repopulate the rest of Australia if it came to that. Now, how many do you think could be gone, or how many will be remaining there, and what sort of habitat will they be left with?
Just a guessing game at the moment, but yeah, obviously in the recent weeks New South Wales suffered significant damage to all the koala habitat, and those guys were much worse off than our southern koalas that we have down there. They're a little bit different. And now, of course, yeah, we've just copped it as well. So it'll be easily well over half. I mean, I've got some staff members that have gone out to check on their properties and you know, see what's left. And for every koala they see alive, they're seeing 100 dead. We've had 17 koalas show up in the back of the trailer just only 2 hours ago, treating those guys. Not everything's going to make it, but yeah, Kangaroo Island went from one extreme to the other, yeah, with all of our wildlife.
So how much habitat is left for the wildlife that has survived? Because you can't grow eucalyptus trees all that quickly.
No, absolutely. You know, it can take 15 to 20 years for a eucalyptus tree to establish. And of course, you know, there's close to 1,000 different species of eucalyptus. They don't eat everything. One problem that we will have is the koalas that are remaining, the habitat for those guys is already considered to be quite full. So any that were pushed out with no food now back into the habitat that's already here, or even our guys, we can't release them straight away because there is so many koalas in the trees that are left, and we just don't want to overpopulate that and start killing off the native habitat from over-browsing. So we've set up a little bit of a rehab centre here. So we've been caring for koalas for many years now, but never to this extremes. So working closely with some government departments, the vet clinic on Kangaroo Island's been really good to us, and you know, it's not just us. There's so much stock that's perished or suffering. It's kind of a scrambling going on everywhere, and of course, there's not a great plan happening yet because people are only just getting back out there now and finding out what's actually been lost. But yeah, figuring it out as we go.
Sam, in terms of the fire itself, we've been looking at pictures of what was essentially a column of fire or a fire tornado. The speed of this was clearly extraordinary. What warning did you get, and what did you see in terms of this fire and just how quickly it took on?
And a few weeks ago, I believe there was 8 fires started from lightning strikes, and we had one on our boundary start up, which didn't last too long. You know, those fires were quite devastating. There was a few houses lost or sheds lost in that. And I don't even know what day it is, to be honest. So when it
Sunday,
hit 40,
yeah, but understand that.
41 degrees, the wind was howling. There was some dry lightning strikes. They prepared the town that I'm in, Pandana. They prepared that a few days earlier. There's some heavy equipment pushing in fire breaks. They've bombed the town with retardant to try and save the town. Early, about 3 p.m, I went into town and picked up some koalas at the CFS base that they had there, and come back out to the park just treating about 10 koalas that we had, 10 burn victims. We were treating those guys. Got to about 6:30 at night time, and we started seeing a lot of ash and embers and hearing reports. So I come in and packed up my wife and 1.5-year-old son, and sent those guys into town. My brother and I stayed with 2 units, so we had 1 bulk water carrier set up for fighting fires, and a 1,000-litre pot on the ute, as well as a few animals in one location, which we thought was quite well defended. However, if the fire hit us, we had no chance. But about 10 o'clock that night, we were sitting there in the truck, ready, just keeping an eye out for any spot fires. All of a sudden, we seen a lot of the emergency vehicles starting to retreat back towards Pandana. And one SES guy seen us and said, if we don't leave now, we're going to go. And I was pretty keen to stay and keep an eye on all the animals. I've got 700 animals here, some critically endangered. And he said, well, we're out of here and we won't come back for you. So at this point, it started glowing. Everything's getting quite red. We expected within the next 5 minutes it might be on us. So we moved to another area of the park where most of our animals were, with the truck running and ready to keep an eye out for spot fires. As this happened, there was a massive wind change, and sent it, so northwest of us, and took out, from what I'm aware, Stokes Bay. So we were up until about 2 a.m. just keeping an eye out, and then we had a huge dumping of rain which changed everything. And I'm told the closest it got to us, there's a golf course just 2 properties over that suffered some damage, and about 3 kilometres down the road is where the carnage starts.
Which I suppose in a fire and that wind change is only minutes away. Can I ask you finally, Sam, what are your thoughts turn to in the future about how this can be prevented? I mean, it sounds as though the only ability was for the authorities to be able to protect the town itself. You've got an island there, it's hard to get off it, and a lot of various bits of vegetation there that are ultimately going to burn. Do you think this is going to be a part of life now for Kangaroo Island?
Oh, absolutely. And, there has been some pretty extreme fires on the island over the years. However, when you got 40, 42 degree weather, 50 kilometre an hour winds and lightning strikes, all of those combined, it's going to happen. And of course, there's so many units were all around Australia defending everywhere else. So, but we had a lot of resources sent over here. But I don't know. I'm no fire expert. I'm just doing what I can for the animals.
Yeah. No, fair enough, Sam. We understand that. And look, all the best with that. Obviously, really troubling to hear of what's happened to that, not just koala population, some of those other endangered species, but all the best with that recovery effort. So appreciate your time today. Thanks, mate.
Thank you very much. Cheers.